So, a few weeks ago, we talked about our favorite games in 2024 thus far, Brandon and I. However, thus far is not all of the year, that's half of the year, and half of the year hasn't happened yet. And so, myself and two other mystery people want to talk about everything else that's coming this year that we are anticipating that might make the mark for our favorite games of this year. And one of the mystery people, if they make themselves heard, is Brandon Miracle.
That's me. I'm Brandon Miracle. Hello. Hi, people.
And another mystery person is Steve Bowling.
Whoa, no way. Steve Bowling's on this panel? I'm not going to watch.
And with that, let's talk about some of these dang games. And you know what? Steve, throw one out there. We're going to talk about 3 different games each. And we haven't told each other exactly what our selection is going to be. So if one person mentions a game that's on our list, we're going to wing it and adapt on the fly because there's many games coming. So Steve, what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3 is a game that may not come out this year, but I have to believe it's going to, and that is The Plucky Squire. I've been so excited to see this game, and I refuse to believe that it's going to silk song its way through 2024 and not come out this year. If you haven't seen it, it's like a storybook game, and half of it is 2D and half of it is 3D. And what makes it really neat outside of just the presentational aspect is that the 2D bits happen like inside the storybook, but the 3D bits happen like in the room that the book is in. Like you come out of the book and you're in like a kid's room, just running around, going on adventures. It reminds me of a lot of the things I love about 2D Zelda, but with a really playful way that they're actually presenting it.
That's a good comparison. There's kind of like a Link Between Worlds vibe, going into the book to become 2D, and then leaping out 3D. It's also done by James Turner, who previously worked at Pokemon. He did the designs for Sword and Shield, and he's been part of the staff for a while. So it's super cool seeing someone that prolific just leave Game Freak to become a solo dev. But yeah, that is like one of the coolest looking indie games coming up, and I that was so close to being on my list too. I can't wait for that one.
That's a game that kind of plays on what I used to imagine as a kid. A lot of kids play with toys, but for me, my toys were the video games I was playing. Like, I remember spending a lot of time with Smash Brothers, just making up stories and just playing them out in versus matches and whatnot. Basically using them as action figures. But imagining those characters in the real world, is also something that I would do. So being able to like traverse your childhood bedroom with a character who is like Link adjacent it's so cool. It's like that childlike wonder brought to life.
Yeah. It seems the storybook can be whatever it wants to be. There's one scene where it's like mirroring Punch-Out. There's other like rhythm game kind of clips. You get a ton of diversity there. And it's super cool that in the indie scene, 3D platformers are thriving. There's so many cool ones coming out. And this is rightfully one of the coolest ones. So very, very good shout out, Steve.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it. Like I said, it's probably the only game that I have on my list that isn't confirmed for 2024, but I just really I have to hope that it's coming out this year. Devolver hasn't announced a release date yet, but it looks so cool, and there are so few games that are really kind of messing with our expectations from a presentation standpoint. Most games these days are pretty straightforward in their setting, so I like the kind of, like you said, the Link Between Worlds aspect of this one.
Yeah, it's really cool. Brandon, though, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Mario Party Jamboree.
Ooh.
The name Jamboree is still so funny.
It's a weird choice. I can't lie about that. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Mario Party. I did a video about features I want to see in Mario Party Jamboree recently. Mario Party's big in my house. Ever since the beginning of Michaela and I's relationship, Mario Party has been a constant in our rotation. So we're both very excited for Mario Party. We've already planned a party for the day the game comes out.
Nice.
Because it's that big of a deal here. So, I love the combination of both button mini games and motion control mini games. There's a lot of people who don't like Super Mario Party that much. I'm not one of those people. I think that game is great. especially the mini games. Those motion control mini games are some of the best the series has ever had, I think.
Totally.
We always talk about the meat flipping mini game with the meat cube.
Good looking meat.
It's some of the best looking meat in video games. There's also the marble one where you have to shake the Joy-Con to get the marbles out of the jar. One of the coolest use cases for HD Rumble, and one of the only. So I'm excited to see some of that stuff return, as well as just having a traditional Mario Party experience. I think it's super smart having both 5 original boards as well as 2 returning, specifically Western Land. Western Land is one of my all-time favorite boards. Mario Party 2 was my first Mario Party game, and Western Land was my favorite board growing up, or one of my favorite boards growing up. So having that is super cool. And then you have the other element of Super Mario Party. You have the giant roster of characters you can play as what, Goomba? Like, in mini games where you're supposed to hold things, what does he do?
Like riding a bike with no handlebars.
Yeah, exactly. I love Super Mario Party's willingness to just throw logic out the window and just let you have fun, and that seems to be what's happening here.
Yeah, I'm a big defender of the first game too. I think it's so much fun. Not all the side stuff, but the core mode. I love the different character dices. I love the allies. I love the mini games, as you said. And then added online later. The series is not in the dark state that some still think it's in. But Jamboree, I think, leaves no doubt of any of that dark era. Because these boards look amazing. That's the biggest critique you can give the first Super Mario Party is, like, out of those, 4 boards, only by half of them are any good. Whereas this, they all look really interesting. They're diverse, they're big, and they've got their own little gimmicks. Like, one of them has like a car, but not like a Mario Party 9 kind of car, more like just the theme to the stage. And yeah, this just looks legitimately, it could be one of the best Mario parties.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Jamboree to come out. Name notwithstanding, it's a really cool looking take on the Mario Party franchise. Like you guys, I love Super Mario Party as well. The thing that excites me the most about this is that I don't play Mario Party often, but when I do, it's at big gatherings with family. So, this comes out in October. The holidays are just shortly after that. And I imagine that I'll be taking Mario Party Jamboree to my mom's house, and now there's like a 20 player mode. So regardless of how many people we have, we'll be able to play it together. So I'm really excited to have this be an alternative, like a more family friendly alternative to a game like Jackbox, where, usually the adults after the kids have gone to bed, will play Jackbox because we know how crazy it's going to get. But with this, I can have my kids and my nephews and nieces play this with me and have kind of that big gaming experience that I'd like to have with my larger family all together without feeling like I'm excluding anyone. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I've always liked Mario Party. I'm excited for this one. It looks like the best one in a long time, and I don't think the last 2 have been like in any way bad. So I think this will be really exciting for us to have as an option.
I do have one slight micro concern with Jamboree, and that's in all of the literature regarding game modes and everything. They only mention online when it comes to Koopathlon mode.
Oh, there's no way that they skip online after doing it in the last 2 games, right?
I was thinking the same thing, but I don't know. There's that little worry in the back of my mind that says Nintendo's gonna do a Nintendo and there's not gonna be online in this mode.
It is really funny that as a Nintendo fan, you do have to worry about those things because Nintendo makes
nothing
those
is ever
decisions.
certain as a Nintendo fan.
Yeah, I would be supremely disappointed if there was no online after the last 2 games have had online. So I still believe there is, just a little worried. That's all.
Yeah, so weird. But it's a cool year when Mario Party is like a Game of the Year candidate or on the board for it. So that's super cool. My number 3 pick is Metaphor. I think this looks so damn cool. We haven't had what's essentially a new Shin Megami Tensei series in a while. And this seems like it's taking many elements from other core series, but it's just doing its own thing. So if you've played Persona, there's Persona elements in here. And if you've played like Soul Hackers or a bunch of that stuff, you're basically getting that, but in a cool sort of kind of alternate medieval kind of setting. I think that's just rad. It's funny that we're getting a lot of British voice direction in RPGs lately, like from Xenoblade to Final Fantasy 16 and now Metaphor. But I love seeing that stuff in medieval settings. And there's lots of like just cool quality of life things for the genre. Like if you're a higher level than an enemy, kind of like Earthbound, you can just beat them. But you go into like an action sequence rather than turn-based. So it's a bit more involved than that. And I just think this looks really, really cool from the UI, which is a piece of art, to just the general tone and setting. But yeah, I think I'm more excited for this than I am the future of Persona. This just really ticks something on my box. Like 3 Reload was great this year, but I have far higher expectations for Metaphor. So you're very, very excited for this one.
Metaphor is a game that I've been looking at pretty closely. I've said it before, but Persona has never quite landed with me. It was one of the subjects of my games you should give a second chance video. But I don't know, there's something different about Metaphor that's more appealing to me than Persona from like the outside. There's that element of like action RPG in addition just to the standard turn-based stuff, and I think that's a little more appealing to me. And I could see this game being like a gateway to SMT and Persona as as a whole. So like, maybe this game does something different that is more appealing to me overall or gets me in sooner. Because I've tried Persona 5 like 3-4 times, 10 hours each time, and it never quite settled with me. But I do want to be a fan. There's a lot that I like about these games, but I just need a little bit more. So I'm hoping Metaphor does that.
I imagine this is faster paced than Persona as well. Like Persona has a lot of downtime where you're sort of just doing school stuff. This seems like it kind of carries things much quicker. And also, not everyone just jives with being a high school student, like especially when you're in your like adult years. Maybe that's not something like you're just interested in. So it's neat that this is more of like a mature take on SMT. But yeah.
I'm definitely interested to try Metaphor out. Atlas, they know how to make their games stylish and how to make them visually appealing. I've played a few SMT games. Like Brandon, I've tried Persona, and I just haven't been able to settle into it. For me, it's more the time commitment. Persona games take hundreds of hours, and I often tell myself I just don't have that time, which is false. But I think it's that the time required, like it's not a jump in, jump out kind of game. You have to settle in for longer sessions when you play Persona games. So I'll be interested to see if Metaphor does anything to combat that, to make it more accessible to jump out of gameplay and back into it. Especially, the Switch has kind of accustomed me to play in short bursts as opposed to, sitting down for lengthier periods of time. But that being said, I am very interested to check this out. I think Persona comes with a little bit of baggage in terms of just the fact that, a lot of people are jumping in the 5th game, and that can feel a bit daunting when you feel like maybe you need to play those other 4 first. And so it'll be nice to start with a new series with something that takes a lot of what people love about Persona, but recontextualizes it in a way that, maybe makes it a bit easier to approach.
Totally. So our games so far are Metaphor, Mario Party Jamboree, and Plucky Squire. Let's get a new round of games in. So back to Steve, what's your second most anticipated for the year?
Well, John, you reminded me of this right before we started recording, and I had to make it a last minute addition to my list, but that would be Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. Fantasy Life on the 3DS is my favorite game on that platform. I spent hundreds of hours in it just doing all kinds of stuff. It's funny, we talked about Persona just now and the kind of downtime, but that was one of the things I loved about Fantasy Life was that I could choose when to have downtime and do other things by just switching to a non-combat role. I could become a chef, or I could become a blacksmith, or I could, become any number of jobs that didn't require me to venture out and fight monsters. I could build better armor for myself for the next time I wanted to go out, or I could cook food to take with me on missions to heal myself and my party. And I ended up just falling in love with this game. Everybody that had a copy I would play it with, them. And, if they needed support, I'd switch my job to more of a support role, or I'd go out hunting with them to find materials they needed. And it occupied this space in my 3DS library that, no other game quite captures. And there's no game like this on the Switch right now. It is one of those games that is really unique. And if you've never played Fantasy Life on the 3DS, then you really don't know what you're missing. It's just a game that I would recommend to literally anybody who plays games, because all of the different play styles make it to where you can do just about whatever you want in that game. You can have a more Animal Crossing-like experience. You can have a more, combat-focused Zelda-like experience with it. And it's just such a beautifully presented game with a really great story, by the way, that and excellent combat mechanics. Like, it does so many things, and it excels at doing each one of them. Based on how much I love the 3DS version, Fantasy Life I is just an instant buy for me.
You know what's really interesting about this kind of game is with the Switch, it's a hybrid of both console and handheld. But for Nintendo at least, they haven't really embraced that. Like, we've had Pokemon and we've had Brain Training. But like this year, we've got a 2D Zelda, we've got another Code, we've got Mario and Luigi, and then Level 5 are doing Fantasy Life and Layton. So it's like the Switch is really starting to feel like also a 3DS successor, and this is absolutely a core game in that. Very excited for this, and it's enough distance from Animal Crossing as well that it feels like it's not in that bubble anymore. So that this is a really, if you've bounced off New Horizons, this isn't exactly the same game, but it kind of recaptures that energy that most people feel like they've kind of had now.
That's a really good point you're making, because the one of the things that I used to tell people back in the day with the 3DS is Fantasy Life feels like if Animal Crossing had an actual gameplay component attached to it at the end, like a traditional gaming experience, with objectives and quests and stuff like that. It feels like you took some of the stuff from Animal Crossing and added basically you bolted a Zelda game onto it.
Yeah, there. Another element of this game too that I think is widely appealing is the multiplayer. This is a game that you can play with anyone, because just like you said, Steve, there are elements that might cater more to a traditional gamer, like the combat and whatnot, and then someone who's more casual can enjoy the Animal Crossing elements, that side of the game more. Like, this is something I anticipate that me and my wife will play a lot. And that's so cool that we can just play the same game, but in two very different ways, but still working towards the same goal. I didn't play the 3DS version of Fantasy Life, so this is going to be a very new experience for me, and honestly, I can't wait. I just want to sit in the living room with her and just see what we can do.
That's probably the best position to be in, just going in fresh without even knowing the first one, because you're going to be very surprised, I think. But anyway, Brandon, what's your second pick?
This is getting tougher and tougher, because there are a lot of games coming out this year that I'm excited for, but it's hard for me to argue with how excited I am for Dragon Quest III.
Nice.
Ooh. I have never played Dragon Quest III. This will be my first time playing Dragon Quest III. I didn't become a fan of Dragon Quest until Dragon Quest XI. And there are a lot of reasons that it's interesting that was my first game. So going into Dragon Quest III is actually really cool at this point in my life. And everything it's doing with the HD 2D art style, it's incredible. Even the topology of the overworld map, just having those hills that up and down, it adds so much depth to the overworld. And to remind everyone, this was an NES game, a Famicom game.
It's so ahead of its time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Dragon Quest through that lens while also having all these modern sensibilities. I'm also excited just to there's the recruit system, which is something that they brought forward with Dragon Quest IX, which is another one of my favorite Dragon Quest games. And I'm looking forward to just naming characters after my friends and family.
Yeah.
And just going on adventures with them. I can't wait to see what this game's all about.
If no one mentioned this was gonna be on mine. I was just waiting for someone else to say it. 3 it rightfully deserves to be one of the best games of all time. I played through it with the ugly Switch version. So when 11 came out, 1, 2, and 3 came to the eShop with the mobile ports. And they have these horrible sprites. The scrolling
They're really
is
ugly.
like a mismatch of refresh rates, so it doesn't scroll well. But I still loved it. I played through 1, 2, and 3 that way. And it is just, wow, it's beautiful. 3 came out around the time of Final Fantasy 1, and it's radical how far ahead of FF1 it is. Basically everything that an RPG does today, 3 does. It did way back on the NES. Even like a day-night cycle. I remember seeing, there was some outlet out there who said like Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D would have a day-night cycle just like Octopath 2. It's like, no, Dragon Quest 3 did that originally. Like, that's the kind of game it is. You'd think that this is all modern stuff it's retroactively adding, but no, it was there all along. And it just looks gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous. You never know with Dragon Quest if they're going to go for a MIDI soundtrack, and they didn't. It's orchestrated. It sounds lovely. Yeah, I think regardless of whether you've played this game or not, you are in for a delight. Cannot wait.
But nice, yeah. I haven't played really almost any Dragon Quest. I have very limited experience with 11, but beyond that, it's something that hasn't been on my radar. HD 2D has changed that for me. I've really wanted to see what Dragon Quest 3 is going to look like. Of course, we have 1 and 2 coming next year as well. But it is interesting to hear what you're saying, John, because I'm completely in the dark about Dragon Quest 3. So I didn't know that it had a day-night cycle. I didn't know about the recruit system that Brandon mentioned. But I have decided that this is one that I'm going to pick up just because I think that HD 2D is a great way to remake like really old games. It gives it like an air of like a stunning visual presentation while kind of in a weird way preserving the source material to an extent. So this is one that I'm really excited to try. I've heard that it's on the shorter side, which is really great for me at this point in my life. And so I'm just really excited to check this out. This will be probably the first Dragon Quest game that I play all the way through to the end.
Very cool. It's not too long either, so it's not very daunting.
It's nice too that Switch has both this and Dragon Quest 11 because both games I think are equally great launching off points to become a Dragon Quest fan.
Nice.
Yeah, so I couldn't be more excited than I am right now.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to mention it, so I want to shout this out now without it being a pick. But Fantasian, that's another really cool RPG that's coming up. It's not new. It wasn't Apple Arcade, but this version adds voice acting. It's the full thing. And it's on a platform that people want to play games on. So that's always good. But I guess my number 2 pick, I'm going to say Astro Bot.
Nice.
This was competing for the number 1 spot. I've criticized PlayStation a lot in the past of their portfolio. I miss their experimental Japanese days, and now we get lots of stuff in a similar kind of genre. Astro Bot feels like it is the answer to everything I've been critiquing. It is just full of imagination and joy. Every shot and every trailer they've shown has radical ideas. And in my opinion, like the first, like just Astro's Playroom on PS5, just the demo that comes with the system, that's like one of my favorite games on the entire platform.
Agreed.
It might even be the best, but it's so fun. And this is a full game of that, and it seems like it's got a far higher budget. It's doing way more stuff. The scope looks incredible. I can't wait. There's not much more I can say about this other than just saying I can't wait to try this. And I hope Sony does more games just like this one.
Astro's Playroom is one of the most imaginative, like incredible introductory like experiences I've ever had with a video game console. I would argue that Astro's Playroom might be the best packing title ever made. Like, it's right up there with Wii Sports, Super Mario World. And y'all know me, I love Super Mario World. So if I'm saying that, I mean it. But just looking at the new game, it's just expanding on everything that made Playroom great and turning that into a fully fledged experience. I can see a little bit of Super Mario 3D World in there. I can even see a little bit of Mario Odyssey in there. Just this is the kind of game that I've wanted from PlayStation for a long time. And, you know, it's a celebration of PlayStation properties. I may not have as much experience with a lot of those as even both of you guys, but I can still appreciate that. And this is a great opportunity to get introduced to some of those that I haven't played before.
It does feel a little bit like here's all the stuff we don't make anymore, but it's also just a nice celebration of the past. And that's how I want to see it. Like there's Parappa, there's Bloodborne, there's Lammy, there's Ape Escape. And like in Playroom, it was just the bots sort of dressed up as these guys or acting as them. Whereas now you get these full-on costumes for everybody, and it seems like they're integral to the gameplay. And Steve's even got a little Astro behind him right now.
I do. I'm a big fan of the boy myself. He's out of focus, but there he is.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of Astro. I played the first game in VR on the PS4, and that was a really cool experience. Obviously we all agree that the Playroom PS5 pack-in is one of the best games ever. I recently found out one of my friends who's had a PS5 since launch just never played it.
What?
There must be a lot of people like that, I bet. Like,
yeah,
PS5 sold what, like 50 million? I doubt 50 million people have played Astro.
What a shame.
And they should. They should. If you have a PS5 viewer and you have not played Astro's Playroom, shame on you. You should have played it. I am so excited for Astro Bot to come to PS5. Like we've been saying since launch that it should have, that they should have made a full-fledged game. And one of the things that I found disheartening at the beginning of this year was Sony saying that they had no AAA, new entries coming out in 2024. Shame on you for saying that, Sony. Like Astro Bot is absolutely AAA. I think I'm more excited for it than I have been for any of their AAA titles over the past year. I felt
absolutely.
The time.
And yeah, as you're saying, like it looks like it's just going above and beyond. Now we're at number 1 picks now, right?
We are.
Number 1. Okay, so I've still got a fair amount of games on my list that could take the spot depending on what you guys say. So
interesting.
Let's take this away with a number 1 pick. Brandon, what's your number 1?
This is tough. I'm juggling between a couple games, but I'm looking deep within myself. Who am I? I'm Brandon, but I'm also Mario. I cannot wait for Mario and Luigi Brothership. It's the Mario and Luigi is not even like my favorite Mario RPG series. I think it's still Paper Mario when I really think hard about it. But, we had a remake of Super Mario RPG, a remake of Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. This is a new game. And I think that's the most exciting thing about it for me, is that it's not a remake. This is a brand new Mario RPG. It's going to be a brand new experience. And what more can I ask for? Like, this is the 3rd Mario RPG in like a year and a half. And it's a brand new game, a revival of a series that's been dead for so long. And it's probably the most unique of the 3. I love the interplay between like the action commands as well as like the defensive maneuvers. They're evolving the combat in a way that I really like. Mario and Luigi work together more and more of their standard moves than even just like their bros attacks, which I think is cool. And also just it's Mario and Luigi on a seafaring adventure. Who doesn't want that?
It looks really good too. They've managed to adapt that art style to 3D really successfully. And when was the last Mario RPG that didn't feel like it had like a little hand on the brake at all times? Like, would you say it was Dream Team, the last one that didn't have like a rule against, being able to be fun?
I think so. I mean, I have issues with Dream Team, but I think it still deserves to stand against the best Mario RPGs.
So I don't hate any of the Mario RPGs that come since. Some Paper Marios were quite good even. But this feels like one where you can just have brand new characters, a brand new world, and just return to that zany humor that we've kind of missed. And that's so integral to why we even love Mario RPGs in the first place. It's not about adapting the Mushroom Kingdom. It's about taking these guys outside of it And this is doing that in a way that no game's really done for like a decade. So extremely exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most like unique thing to me about Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. It was a brand new Mario RPG series, and rather than going on an adventure in the Mushroom Kingdom, you go to the Bean Bean Kingdom. And the Bean Bean Kingdom's really weird. Everybody's beans for some reason. But you know, it's hard to argue when you come from the Mushroom Kingdom, I guess. But I love that we're going back to that. Mario going to weird places is the best thing. The Thousand Year Door, Rogueport, one of my favorite locations ever in a Mario game, because it just thematically doesn't make sense, like when you really think about it, but that's what's beautiful about it.
Yeah, you know, I'm really excited for Brothership, and I'm not, unlike the two of you, I'm not like the biggest Mario RPG fan. Like, I liked the SNES original when it came out. I certainly played the remake recently, and I've played Thousand Year Door, both the original in the last like 5 years and the remake that came out this year. But beyond that, my experience is not, you know, those that's it. Like, that's all I've played. Brothership, however, I really like this new trend of Nintendo not playing it so safe with Mario, that they've been more interested in portraying him in new and interesting ways. You know, like John said, this one perfectly evokes the feeling of all the art we've seen of Mario and Luigi RPGs for years and years now. So it's nice to have a game that matches that art style. And the animation is so good. Like, every single shot we've seen, they're like playful and cartoony, and you know, they're not afraid to like stretch and deform the characters to make them feel more dynamic and impactful. And oh man, I love that. Like, it feels like the same team that worked on Mario Strikers got to help out with the animation with this, and I love that.
It'd be interesting if it is Next Level helping out. They've said some Alpha Team staff are back, so we still don't really know, and we probably won't know until it's out, which is just the Nintendo norm for some reason. But Steve, while we've got you, what is your number one most anticipated game for this year?
You know, I'd like to say this was tough, but it just wasn't. This was an easy choice for me. It is 2024, and there is a Zelda game coming out. So Echoes of Wisdom is my number one most anticipated game. I will be buying the Switch Lite that I don't need. I'm just excited to play this. Anytime a new Zelda game comes out in my life, it's an event. Like, I take time off work. I hide in a cave until it's done, and I try not to be on social media or anywhere whatsoever. This is going to be another game where I go on full blackout until I've beat it. I mean, we've got a Zelda game where we actually play as Zelda, which is something I've wanted for a long time. But more importantly than that, it's also a new 2D Zelda, which I think is a great thing. I've been wondering what Nintendo would do in a post Breath of the Wild world with a brand new 2D Zelda game, and we've got that answer now. They've injected some of the creativity that they've let players run wild with into Echoes of Wisdom. You know, the echoes, of course, being that Zelda can copy objects and then place them wherever she wants in the world. I like that they didn't just take Zelda and then hand her a sword and be like, go kill things. Like, she gets to be creative and use that creativity as a means of getting through all kinds of stuff. And it seems like there will be, you know, this will be in the same way Tears of the Kingdom, no two playthroughs are the same. It feels like this will be true of Echoes of Wisdom as well.
This was on my number one spot as well, so I'm glad you said it. And everything you said, just echoing that. There were some really cool shots of improvisation in the trailer too, like getting into the Gerudo town. They were just sort of stacking up trampolines and chairs, and there must be other ways to do that. And it feels like A Link Between Worlds was dabbling in being able to allow you to go in any order you want with dungeons, and this is allowing you to get around the world in any order you want. And what's very interesting too is the map, like in that wide shot, it's clearly based on A Link to the Past. But then you get into specific shots in the trailer, it's actually really hard to recognize areas. There's whole settlements there that were never in A Link to the Past. There's a whole bunch of other bits there. And there's a lot of fear about it being, you know, that map reused again, because we did just do that a decade ago in A Link Between Worlds. But I'm not fearful of that. I feel like they are doing enough new stuff here, more so than Tears of the Kingdom did with its Hyrule. It kind of feels like a new place, even if the structure is somewhat similar.
Yeah, I have to wonder, because I feel like there might be some type of mashup element. Like, we see Link get sucked into some other place at the beginning of the trailer, And then later in that same trailer, we see the two different types of Zoras in the same place with one another. So part of me wonders if it's going to be something where maybe creatures or characters from other timelines kind of get thrown into this one same world together. And Zelda has to maybe, sort out what's going on, with Link having been taken out of the picture. Maybe the universe itself starts to act a little funny.
Yeah. There's absolutely going to be a point at the end of the game where we just echo a bunch of links to fight Ganon.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Is that how we find out that this is actually a Four Swords game?
Right? A 400 Swords game. I hope that Nintendo had the foresight to include the ability to echo enraged cuckoos to just attack people.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm so excited for this game myself. Being able to play as Zelda with a wholly unique gameplay style for her is so exciting to me. But I feel like there's something massive that this game has that it hasn't shown us yet. It's going to have a Mario Odyssey moment where they're like, actually, there's a whole other thing we didn't talk about. Because, it might be Echoes of Wisdom, and that might be the main core mechanic, but I feel like there's something else that we haven't seen yet.
They're very good at sort of drip feeding that surprise. People are scared about Metroid Prime 4. There's absolutely going to be a hook. We've only seen the beginning of that game. And what's really exciting is it's out in 2 months. And I love when they do that. Metroid Dread had a similar window, which just announced and then it's out so soon. But yeah, what a cool game. And it's been so long since 2D Zelda. So it's nice to have it in any form, but the fact that it's so ambitious is just, yeah. It's one of the easily one of the most anticipated games this year. So I guess that leaves me with my number one most anticipated. And you both said my runner-ups, and there's still more games this year that are coming out that I'm excited for. But what I've been left with is kind of surprising. It might not be my number one, but it's nice that it's in here. And that's Flight Simulator 2024. I love Flight Sim 2020 on PC and Xbox. I thought it was so cool that the entire world was just made and you can fly around there. I'm definitely not into the simulator side. I don't. When I get put in a cockpit with a plane, I don't know what any of the buttons do. But I love just flying around. And this one is adding a bunch of objectives, you can rescue people or you can put out fires and all that. And that's cool. But what I really like is everything's just more detailed. With Flight Sim 2020, the sky looked amazing and everything looked incredible from the sky. The clouds were great. The map data from below looked good. But then you get to the ground, and all of a sudden it's just these blocky buildings that don't really look like anything. And New York has grass and trees everywhere for some reason. But this one's taken far more detail with that, and things actually look real. And I put a lot of hours into that first Flight Sim, and I'm ready to do it all over again. But I didn't even do everything I could with Flight Sim, the previous one. I never touched multiplayer. I never just flew around with people. I'm pretty eager to do that. So, legitimately, this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. If I redid the list, it would probably be further back, but Echoes of Wisdom and Mario & Luigi are both rivaling for my number one spot too. But I'm pretty happy I got to mention this one, though. But there were a few other ones sort of fighting for this spot. Another one was Slitterhead, which is done by the original Silent Hill director, who also did Gravity Rush. They formed their own studio to make that game. And Locomotive is another really cool indie game, where it's a point-and-click adventure murder mystery on a train. That looks rad too. But no, Flight Sim's the one that I'm going with.
Nice. I tried Flight Sim 2020 when I heard you talk about it, and I was very interested to see it. I agree that it's visually incredibly stunning from the air, but I had no idea, honestly, that there was even a 2024 edition being worked on, and that would be an interesting thing to see. I recently bought an ultra wide monitor, and I imagine that would be really fun to play a game like Flight Sim on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool that this is on console as well. Flight Sim's always been that PC series. The previous one came to Series X, but after a long time, whereas this one's sort of day and date. And it worked well on Series X. Obviously, if you're getting into the really complicated stuff like being in the cockpit, taking off manually, that's probably better with a mouse. But if you just want to drive around, fly a plane, controller's perfectly fine. And it has mouse and keyboard support as well on console, but
See, and I don't think I ever knew that there was like a more simplified mode. I think I always just assumed you had to use all the crazy controls in the cockpit and stuff like that.
You can just hold like RT down and like, okay, forward.
That's more my speed.
Yeah.
It's nice that the game kind of lets you play however you're comfortable with. I do love watching like videos of people playing games like Flight Sim or Euro Truck Simulator with like these crazy rigs with all this hardware that they buy to have the most like compelling simulation experience. I want to try something like that before I die.
We should like just do a stream where it's like Flight Sim 2024, flight from the UK to like LA, real time. And it's like a 10-hour stream.
There we go.
Heck yeah.
You just fly over the ocean for most of it.
We should all dress up like captains. With the hat and the tie.
I would love that.
A cool year though. So let me try and get all the games we mentioned. So we had Plucky Squire, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Metaphor, Astro Bot. What were the other two ones?
Fantasy Life
Fantasy Life, and Brandon said, what's your number 2?
Dragon Quest 3.
Dragon Quest 3. And then we had Flight Sim 2024, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and Mario and Luigi Brothership. That's a pretty dang good list of games. And when it comes to our end-of-year Game of the Year discussions, I don't know what's going to take it, because any one of those deserves it.
It's going to be a tough one. I'm honestly unsure how it's going to go, because, I mean, maybe aside from Mario Party Jamboree, Dragon Quest 3 could have taken the number 1 spot for me. Like, and because, you know, we had to split some of these up, it was really hard to like come down to just 3. Yeah, I really don't know how this is going to go. This is going to be one of those.
All the stuff we've already talked about, Brandon, in the last discussion. Like,
we
had Animal Well and Prince of Persia, which both probably might be Game of the Year.
Animal Well might be one of my favorite games of all time. So we'll see.
It's a wildly competitive year, and it's interesting to say that because it doesn't feel like it when you follow the news cycle. I mean, Sony hasn't released a bunch of stuff. Xbox certainly hasn't. Nintendo is in they're going up on 8th year of their platform being on the market, and yet we still have a lot of valid choices. For me, so far this year, it's been Helldivers, just because of the sheer amount of hours I've put in and the amount of enjoyment I've gotten out of it. But Fantasy Life is a sequel to a game that I put a similar amount of time into, and I could see the back half of this year being dominated by that. To say nothing of a brand new 2D Zelda, to say nothing of Astro Bot. Astro Bot definitely has the potential to take my Game of the Year slot as well, because that is a game that I'm wildly excited for, and I love 3D platformers, and I said it back with the 2020 game. This could be a game that tracks with like a AAA 3D Mario release in terms of quality. So it's really anybody's guess what's going to be the Game of the Year. I don't have any clue at this point, but I can tell you the back half of the year is even more exciting than the first 6 months.
Oh God, I'm so ashamed. There's one game I forgot about, and I deserve a bunch of flack for not talking about it.
Uh-oh.
I didn't say Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
And my God, me neither.
And I'm so ashamed. I'm so excited for that game, so I'm throwing that in as an honorary mention.
Yeah, you know what? I'd have to join you on that. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I love the series, and Sparking Zero is easily my most anticipated fighting game this year. I will probably spend an absurd amount of time playing that as well.
Me too.
Shame on me for not calling it out.
So, it has been a banger year already, and there's so many more games to come. Before we end up, though, on the count of 3, let's all just say thank you, Daniel, for editing. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Daniel.
For editing. Thanks to our live audience as well for sticking with us. And if you want to be one of them, you know what? You can. Over on Patreon. You can watch all these live discussions as they happen and also comment and talk between them. You can mention your own Game of the Years while we're talking about ours. So if you disagree with something, you can basically just take our video and make it your own in the corner over there. So be one of those guys. I love them all.
They're not there right
yeah.
now, but just imagine they are.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Brandon. Did we do yours?
We did mine first.
Oh, yes, it was me then. Wow, Daniel, edit that.
I'm gonna hang on. Let me note down the time of that one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the wide
Okay.
shot. It finally showed up.